everybody. Welcome to July's Paper Pumpkin Night. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys are all excited about seeing our projects that we are going to create tonight with July's Paper Pumpkin Kit. Now, I have to say, this was probably one of my favorite paper pumpkin kits that we have had before. I really like the outdoorsy theme, the brighter colors, and that you can create a variety of different projects featuring this kit. Now let's go ahead and get started here tonight. I'm first going to show you what is included in the kit, and then we're going to work on two alternate projects that you can easily create with kit contents and a few extra pieces of cardstock and embellishments. I'm also going to show you one other piece of project that I created and just give you a little detail about how I created that. Well, I'm not actually going to show you how to create that third project. I'll give you some details on how you can create it yourself at home. Let's go ahead and get started and swap out our camera view here so that you can see exactly what I am going over here today. So this is July's Paper Pumpkin Kit. It is called the Adventure Begins. No special box this month for our kit here, but the first thing you'll notice when you open it is this flyer for August's kit. Now, this is Shelly Gardner. She is the founder of Stampin' Up, and she created a box for Paper Pumpkin called the Hope Box. It is called Empowered Friends Empower Friends. And basically, this is for you to seek connection, cherish friendship, and share hope with the box next month. Now, subscription period for this is July 11th through August 10th. So if you already sign up month to month, this will be the kit that you receive next month. This also has a fun special box, and I'm really looking forward to creating alternate projects with our kit. Now, you may also notice that on our instruction sheets here, it says June. This was actually a typo. It is July's class called The Adventure Begins. I am loving that they are now making all of our class instructions color so that you can see exactly where you're going to be stamping and you'll know where you're going to be putting on your project pieces. Now for our class kit here, it also comes with a garden green ink spot. Now today I'm going to be featuring the full-size ink pad, but you can create the same projects with this garden green ink spot here. We have a sheet of these adhesive back sequins. These are actually the same colors that come in the Artistry Blooms sequins, so you can get those on the demonstrator website as well. And then also we have the stamp set for this month. We have a tree with some really fun sentiments. I'm loving the font on this. It's a non-traditional, very fun to create alternate projects here with this as well. Now the kit cards, all of the envelopes this month are the same. We have these featured watercolor wash envelopes. I really like these. They're fun and bright, and you can cut these up for your projects as well. You've got like this blue color on the background here, some fun splotching and watercolor looks to the front. I'm not going to be using these on my projects today, but I did cut some up just to try to see how that would work for the projects. Now let me see here, just making sure. All right, moving on, we have our kit pieces. We've got some fun little punch outs here. They've got banners and circles for our sentiments this month. And then we also have our kit cards. Now these are trifold cards, so one jumped out of my hand there. So you can fold them up and create different looks for your cards. Actually, it's going to go this way there. All of our cards are trifold. The best part about these is that you can create shaker cards with them. Now, while I did not create any shaker cards for you tonight, I wanted to use the kits in a different variety of ways. You can see these will make great background pieces for any alternate projects that you want to create. It also comes with pre-designed trees for you to be able to punch out, and then some more trees here as well. All right, so our project today, let's get some of this out of the way. I'm not going to need my instructions. We are going to be using these trifold cards. So let's get this box out of the way. For our cards tonight, I will be making 2 projects, and like I said, showcasing that third. Here are the projects that I am going to be showing you how to make tonight. This first one is really fun. It has a really fun splatter technique in the back, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to create those with some Stampin' Write markers. No additional tools needed to create this fun splatter technique. We're going to use that little fun camper, some trees, and then the sequins. The only additional thing you need for these projects are some cardstock and the Stampin' Write markers and a black ink pad for this. And then this card features the back side of the main cards. I'm gonna show you how easy it is that you can bend the stamps to be any kind of direction that you want. For this one, we'll be using a Night of Navy ink pad, as well as some Wink of Stella down on our trees here. I'm also using some Night of Navy cardstock and basic white to create these basic pieces that you may have in your card room. If you don't have these, you can easily swap them out for additional colors. Now, I had mentioned that there was a third project that I wanted to show you tonight, and it is this one here. Now, this one is pretty unique. This is basically a clear card here, so you can see right here. This is made out of Stampin' Up! Window sheets. These are actually like transparent sheets. They're pretty thick. They come in 12 by 12, so I cut it down to 8.5 by 11. And what I did is I used my scoreboard and I put a really thick crease into this window sheet here. I cut up my envelope to include a little strip of paper there, and I'll hold it up so you guys can see this a little better. And I wanted to show you the inside. So because these window sheets are really thick, if you just leave it the way it is, once you score it, it will not lay flat. So I found these things at your local office supply store. CVS has them. These are Scotch reusable again and again pieces is what they're called. Reuse again and again. They remove cleanly, but you can put them on the inside of your window sheet. Right here is where I have them, hidden by that strip of envelope from the front. And this will help close up your card, and it's just kind of a temporary thing. It doesn't tear the paper and it will not ruin the inside of it, but it just holds it flat right there to kind of cover up that little area in the back. Now, with window sheets, it does have your little glue, so you will be able to see the glue from the back. You can put a piece of cardstock on the back there if you want, but you can just leave it there too. I put 2 of the trees at a higher angle on this project, and I cut the back side of a card to be able to create that here. So you just can close that down, and the only additional for this card is the window sheet and a piece of twine. That's it for this card. It's the only difference. Everything else comes with the kit. So very fun to create, very simple, just a little bit of tweaking with that window sheet there. All right, let's jump into our projects. The first card we're going to create here today features a piece of basic black cardstock, and it's cut to 5.5 by 8.5. Now, I have all of the directions pre-printed, and I will upload this to a private link that you can access. It has all of the supplies for the projects that we're going to create today, as well as the dimensions. So you will receive this and be able to follow along with this video and this free PDF, and you can complete the projects today. So you don't have to worry about writing down any of the dimensions. All right, I have a piece of basic black cardstock and a piece of Granny Apple Green cardstock. This is 3 3/4 by 5 1/8. Another piece of basic white cardstock, which is 3.5 by 4 7/8. Okay, So we are going to take our Granny Apple Green cardstock first, and we're gonna adhere that to our card base using our, see, my phone is making, okay, I'm just going to turn my notifications off. There we go. Our Granny Apple Green is gonna be adhered down to our card base, and we're just going to glue that right to the middle. For our basic white, now I had shown you, here we have that fun little splatter technique, and I'm using 3 different colors of Stampin' Write markers. You want to use Stampin' Write markers, not Stampin' Blends. You don't want to use this technique with Stampin' Blends because it can hurt the tips on your Stampin' Blends. Stampin' Write markers are a little bit more flexible than Stampin' Blends, so you don't want to do this technique with Stampin' Blends. Just want to put that out there. You want your workspace to be covered because when you do the splatter technique, it can get a little messy. And the 3 colors that I'm using tonight are Pacific Point, Bermuda Bay, and Granny Apple Green. All 3 of these colors are in the Brights Stampin' Writes color family. So if you have a package of the Brights Stampin' Write markers, you can do this technique. Of course, you can substitute them out for any other colors that you want to or that you have, but these are the 3 that I'm going to work with tonight. So Stampin' Write markers, these vary from our Stampin' Blends, as these markers are the same ink that are in our ink pads. They come just like Stampin' Write markers with a writable edge and a brush tip, but these are just a little bit different. This brush tip is more of like a pen tip, and this brush is a little more flexible. So this is the side that we're going to use, this brush tip. We've got our marker cap here, and all we're going to do is take our brush tip and just flick the ink off the cap. Okay, and you're just going to move around your card, and that's it for the first color. We're going to come in with Bermuda Bay and do the same thing. Flick our color there. And then Pacific Point, flick our color as well. And the closer you get to your paper, the more intense the colors get. The harder you flick that, the more splatter you're going to get as well. It really depends on how much you really want to customize your project. So there's the splatter. You can see why you want to cover your workspace. You've got splatter effect on your paper. But there is the end, and you can see what that looks like, just like that. We're going to adhere that now down to our card base. And because the splatters are so small, you don't really have to have a wait time for them to dry. They kind of dry instantly on the card there. And that's right in the middle. Bring in our project here. Now we are going to use the pre-designed trees that come in the kit. So it has these 2 different sizes of trees. And what we're going to do is I've got one here, and I'm going to take the stamp that is the tree shape, but it is these little pine needles. I'm going to ink that up using the Garden Green ink pad. That's the color that was included in your class kit. And I'm just going to stamp that right onto the pre-printed tree. And so that'll give the tree some dimension to it, and little pine needles there as well. So just stamp that right onto your tree, and that'll give it the printed needles. Got some ink there on my hand. Okay, so we also are going to use, let me grab the pre-printed card. So this is the card that we're going to use that's pre-printed. It has this tri-fold set to it, and we're going to pop out a little camper. Now this is actually attached to the card base, so you want to be careful as you're poking it out because it does have this little trailer hitch to it. So you don't want to rip that part off because we want that on our project. I'm going to use my scissors and carefully snip it off of the tree base or the card base. It's going to have some green on your tire, section, that's okay. That's just going to be the ground for your camper here. All right, we've got our camper and our trees. We're going to take our trees first, and this little guy here, you can just snip off of that white card base there. We just need the topper of him. I'm gonna take my background tree and my smaller tree, and we're just gonna kind of offset those so that one will be a little higher than the other. Okay. And then you can take a little bit of Scotch tape or washi tape, and then you just need a tiny bit on the back of that to kind of hold it all together just in place until you glue everything down. So before you glue it down, you just want to kind of shimmy it around, check it out on your paper, but we're going to stamp our sentiment first because that's going to be our placement guide for our camper. We're going to use the stamp that says "The whole world awaits you," and I'm just using basic tuxedo black ink. If you don't have this, you can use the green ink pad that came in your class kit. I'm just going to use regular tuxedo black ink, and we're going to stamp it right onto the lower portion of our card. Okay, cover that up so we don't get ink on our fingers. And now you can work your camper and trees around that. So I'm going to this time try to move my trees so that they're a little hidden behind my camper part. Okay, we're going to glue that down. I'm just going to use liquid glue on the back of these trees because tape runner is a little small. So just some liquid glue will be perfect. Line everything up here. And then for the camper portion, I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. If you don't have these, they did come in the kit, but you know, I love using them a lot. So if you run out, that's okay. You can still make this project without the dimensionals, but just a couple quick ones on the back here. And I'm gonna place that right over, see where my two trees overlap? I want that hidden. So I'm gonna put that camper right over top of that. And then the final bit, these little sequins that came in our paper pumpkin kit this month, I'm gonna take those and I'm gonna put 2 of the blue here in the upper right-hand corner, and then 1 down there in the lower left. So that's our first alternate project. I did the splatter technique using Stampin' Write markers, and then I used the camper piece and the 2 trees to create this simple project. All you have to do is add cardstock and Stampin' blends, and then, or Stampin' Write markers, and then you are good to go for creating this project. I hope you guys like this one. Like I said, all the dimensions will be found on this PDF that I'll send out to you. You'll have all the details of the supplies and the dimensions of the projects that I create tonight, and this will be emailed out along with this full video as well. So you guys will have that to keep to create these alternate projects. So this is our first one here today. Very fun and simple, quick and easy to put together with that splatter technique. All right, our second project, I saw this one online and I really loved the design of it. So I wanted to share this with you guys of how easy it is to create this project and to manipulate our stamps in a variety of ways. So for this one, we are going to use the stamp that says "Dream Big, Aim High." So it comes in just one long stamp here. And what I'm doing is, for the project, I am using the back of one of these cards. So we have this trifold card. I'm going to use this section here. So let me get out my trimmer and we're going to trim off this part from the card. I'm going to cut it right where it creases at first. Now I am going to cut this down to meet my project size here. This is 3.5 by 4 7/8. But I really want a lot of this in my card. So I'm going to cut off here to make this 4 7/8. The hill part can really cut off. If I cut any more off the top, I'll cut the sun off or the moon, however you want to look at this. And then for this one, I'm going to cut off part of here to make this the 3.5 wide section. A lot of that cut off doesn't really change the picture of the project too much. So you can still have the main focal point of the project be this hilly area. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to change the look of your stamps when we do that. It's stuck to the bottom of my trimmer. All right, so you can take your stamps and we're going to use this bigger long block. This is Stampin' Up's clear block H. While this doesn't come in the kit, we normally get a clear block D. You can still use whatever size stamp block that you have. If you have one that's bigger, this will work as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip your stamp right side up and kind of just twist it around. And you can just bend it. Now you'll want to make sure that it's fully stuck in the middle there. It'll kind of come up. See, it's already kind of coming up off the block. So you'll just have to ink it up and stamp pretty quickly there. So you can see that it's a little too far over there. And then before you stamp, you can just move it around to really get it to lay how you want it before you ink it up and actually stamp it. So let's see. That looks good. I'm going to use Night of Navy ink. Again, if you don't have Night of Navy, you can use whatever is close in your craft room, or you can use the garden green that was in your kit this month. So I'm going to stamp that as close as I can to the hill to make it kind of just curve around the edge of that. I'm using Night of Navy cardstock and basic white cardstock. This is 4 1/4 by 11. And I'm just gonna crisp up my line here. And before I glue this down, I'm actually gonna use my Stampin' Seal on the back of this to adhere my white, and then we're gonna use dimensionals on the back of that. It kind of just makes it stand out a little bit more from the card there. Now this basic white piece is 3 3/4 by 5 1/8. And we've got our dimensionals for the back of that. Can't have enough dimensionals on a project. Love dimensionals. I found one of these on Elvis's nose last week, or this week actually. And then we're going to place that right in the middle of our card. This is an easel card, so it's going to stand up just like this. Now, a little bit of embellishing for the card here. Again, these little blue trees and this white piece. I found this white piece just to be kind of not needed. I didn't use it on any of my cards. So I trimmed this off to be level. And I used a little bit of my garden green ink pad, and that same stamp that we did before with the pine trees can be used on this little tree too. So we're going to ink it up in garden green and we're going to stamp off. So we're going to stamp on our grid paper or scratch paper, whatever you have, and then we're going to use it on the tree so it's not as dark. Just a little bit of color onto the blue. I used liquid glue on the back of this. Again, Stamp and Seal is a little thick for this, so just a little bit of liquid glue there. And I'm lining it up with the base of that piece of pattern paper. I again use the blue sequins from the kit. I did 2 down here and 1 up here. And of course, Stampin' Blondie can't have projects without Wink of Stella. So I just did some Wink of Stella glitter brush on these trees to make them pop a little bit. And then this tree that I added a little bit of Wink of Stella on there to give it some shimmer and shine. Hopefully you guys can see. There you go. You can see that shine on the bottom trees. It just makes it stand out a little bit more when it has a little bit of pop of sparkle at the bottom. All right, so these are our 2 projects that I created today for our paper pumpkin alternate night. Now I'm gonna bring in that 3rd project that I had shown earlier. Let me find it, here it is. This I had mentioned I saw online, and it's a really fun card, and I wanted to show you guys how to create this. So one last time I used Stampin' Up! Window sheets. I cut them down to 5.5 by 8.5. I did use my scoreboard because these are really thick. These are like transparencies. I scored it down at 4 1/4, and then I decorated it with the embellishments from this month's card class. You definitely want to make sure that you can find these little Scotch reuse again and again pieces, because they can hold that card down. And you can cut these up to be smaller pieces too, and you get quite a bit in this one package. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining me for this month's Paper Pumpkin alternate class night. I hope you guys enjoyed the projects. As a reminder, I will be emailing this video and the PDF directions to everybody once it's uploaded. I hope you all have an amazing night, and I will see you next month for our Hope Box alternate class. Bye!